Hello, this is Halcyon. Welcome to Hug Nation. Today, I'm going to talk about my recent visit to Esalen and the first ever Burning Man Philosophical Symposium. I was beyond honored to be invited to join founders, Burning Man staff, and some of the most interesting people in the world to get together for 4 days in Esalen. Now, Esalen is this magical place in Big Sur. Big Sur, one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I would argue that Esalen is the most beautiful place in Big Sur. So the point of this gathering was to discuss the future of Burning Man and all sorts of issues. I'll read what the general concept was. This co-learning event will bring together 100 original thinkers, community innovators, and creative leaders from the Burning Man world and beyond for 3 days of deep discussion around art, money, generosity, and the future of creative communities. So we were given a reading list to have in advance. There was an essay by Larry Harvey called Placemaking, Money, Community, and Art. And so by the time I got there, I read all these bios of all these amazing people and read all this highbrow philosophical things about ways that Burning Man is affecting the world, and then historical things relating to placemaking and the Renaissance and art and patrons and all these things to bring us at this high level of conversation with these high level people right when we got there. And although Fly Ranch was one of the topics, it was about everything, and it was about patronage, and it was about the community, and it was about refugee camps, and it was about bringing these ideas into the world and protecting what we have and trying to be legitimate and also trying to be disruptive, and directions in all different, conversations in all different directions with people from experiences in all types of life. And so there were panels and there were breakout sessions and there was an unconference. But the real magic for me was the conversations that happened in between things. The entire venue was taken up by Burning Man people, so it was only anybody you saw was either Esalen staff or somebody involved with this gathering. So you could sit down anywhere and say hi, what's your thing in the world? And inevitably you would get some incredible story and then incredible insight, and the conversation has just left me buzzing. Now, a lot of what talked there, I think, happened in confidence. Meaning it was a place where people felt comfortable sharing intimate things and brainstorming ideas without any sort of accountability for those ideas. So I'm going to try to share here not so much the ideas or solutions or plans that I heard discussed, but more my personal experience and the way I was inspired by this I lack the words. Doesn't feel right to call it a retreat or a symposium or a gathering. I'll just say I used to think that there was no place more inspiring in the world than Black Rock City. Now, I'm not so sure. So in no particular order, here are a few things that I learned. One, it takes a lot of work to be invisible. When Burning Man does its job right, we don't see as participants and citizens how much is happening behind the scenes to make the city run. That's by design. And the more I heard from people about projects and initiatives and staff and labor and all, I was like, whoa, we don't know how much goes on. We see little pieces. We see the rangers walking around. You might see, a volunteer here and there, but it is an incredible amount of work to go into the running of Black Rock City. And so much heart goes into the creation of Black Rock City and the entire Burning Man network. Everybody who works the organization is passionate. There are a few people that are new to Burning Man, but most people have been going for a long time and have these deep emotional connections. Nobody there works for a paycheck. Everybody there feels connected to a movement and feels connected to a sense of purpose. So number 3 is I saw a conversation recently online where someone was posting financials from Burning Man, and they were questioning the payroll and how much people are getting paid at an executive level specifically, but I was like, wait a minute. these people, if they did the same job at a corporation for profit, making widgets or selling sneakers, we'd be making way more money. And these are the people that are leading this world-changing, significant movement. I want those people to be compensated well. I want those people to have their needs met. I want those people to be the best of the best. I don't want people volunteering in their off time because this is something they do in addition to their real job. This is the realest job. Now, I wish they could get paid as much as bank presidents could, but they deserve every penny. And I think we should be fighting to get more resources into the hands, not just of people that run Burning Man, but of artists and anybody who's dedicating so much of their energy and passion and lives to the healing of the world through something that we believe in. And relating to recognizing the staff value is number 4, the need to value artists more. Whether overtly or subconsciously, we have this kind of belief that artists should suffer for their craft. And you almost get rubbed the wrong way, like, well, a job is something you do because you don't want to, and you want to be an artist. You like that, so how come you get paid? And I think that we're at a place of affluence in our culture where we can recognize that art is important. Art is what makes us humans. Art is what can inspire us to push ourselves beyond living and instead into thriving. And we need to find a way to exalt our artists, our professional artists, while at the same time recognizing that we're all artists. And I'll get to that in a second. So get the artists paid so they can go to the doctor. People like, I think Amanda Palmer is a good example of someone who is, people love to give her money. She's figuring out this kind of dynamic, and a lot of it has to do with the messaging, which is something that Burning Man is sometimes great at, sometimes working on, but recognizing the relationship between people and the way that her fans or her supporters feel like family, feel like they get to help contribute to her creation, and that then becomes a gift to them. That's something that, I think the Burning Man community can really, grow with. Number 5, gifting is the answer to everything, or at least it is to me. Over and over I was in conversations where I kept bringing things back to gifting or reminding people of the significance of gifting, because I think, it taints everything in Black Rock City. It taints everything in Burning Man, I believe, whether it is the part of the decommodification, part of the energy dynamic when nobody is having transactional relationships, whether it is that shift in awareness where you go from being a consumer in the world to recognizing that you have gifts to give, and part of whatever that is your art, and therefore you are an artist. That shift is world-changing, and that shift is part of gifting, which is part of why Burning Man is a transformational experience for so many. It's funny that within the organization, they hear the word transformational festival so much that it's kind of like this shudder, icky word. And I was like, I couldn't stop using that word, but I spoke up on the first day to bring up kind of something along that idea about gifting, and there was a thread of conversation about patronage and professional artists and trying to get money into artists' hands, and I brought up the point, like, while I definitely want to pay artists, I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that the nature of the art at Burning Man being a gift is super significant. And that, when I first walked on the playa and saw this just unfathomable amount of energy and time and creativity that was created not because it was anyone's job, not because they were paid to, but because they wanted to gift this to the community and they wanted to blow my mind. And that created this surplus of receiving that made me want to give back to this community for the rest of my life. And as soon as I said it, somebody kind of countered me and said something and rebutted something, and I really feel like I shouldn't have said anything. Oh gosh, I'm naive. Like I'm just a participant. I don't really know what's required, and I'm sorry. And that was like early in the first day, and it put me into this ooh. And then the next morning, someone came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that." It's like, "Oh, really?" And then I was like, "Thank you for saying something," because I was really, I'd kind of had my confidence knocked out of me. And then later in the day, someone else said, "Hey, when we did breakout sessions, we had a long talk about that topic that you brought up. In fact, we started calling it the Halcyon Principle." And one of the highlights of this experience, and one of the highlights of my life, was in the last final closing wrap-up session, seeing Maid Marian, CEO of Burning Man, writing on the whiteboard, Halcyon Principle. So, number 7, I was able to have long talks with Danger Ranger, Harley Dubois, Maid Marian. I got to talk with Stephen Raspa and Caveat and John Mitchell and Answer Girl and Tool, and even Larry Harvey made a hug joke to me when we interacted. This is like if a young lawyer got to hang out with all the living presidents, or if a fighter pilot got to hang out with all the Apollo astronauts and all the heads of NASA. I mean, it was amazing for me. I don't know if it's possible to understand the honor that I felt and how significant it was, but I was humbled, and as I started to feel like my presence there was actually valuable, I'm just honored. Number 8, I learned that I can still get pretty insecure and antisocial. Number 9, I learned that I don't like hot springs as much as most people. I went twice, but I really had to push myself to go, whereas most people there were like, anytime they could, they go into hot springs. Oh, did I mention that Esalen, in addition to being gorgeous on the cliffs in Big Sur and having these rolling lawns and swings and pools, there's hot springs on the cliffs that overlook the ocean. So I actually spent more time just looking out over the cliffs and taking in the majesty. But I guess I'm not as much of a soaker as most people. Number 10, I wish every burner could have seen what I saw. Because it's hard to get your head around the complexities that have to be figured out and the issues that play a role in all the decision making that the Burning Man organization has to deal with. We hear decisions that come out every once in a while. We hear something that happened, with the lottery or with, some, judgment that happened with regard to something. And it's so easy to like have a story about what you would have done differently. And it's kind of like, being in the stands and second guessing, what play the quarterback runs. But the quarterback's dealing with so much factors that we have no idea about. And a topic that came up around that often with me with different people, I shared my mantra with a lot of people, that be present, have integrity, align with love. Because you never know what the right decision is, but you can make decisions from the right place. And so I feel very confident that the Burning Man organization makes decisions from the right place. And, I used to believe, and the history of Burning Man is both fascinating and significant. I saw a presentation by Danger Ranger about the 5 phases of Burning Man and learned a couple significant things. One, I knew that there was the roots in the Cacophony Society, but I didn't know how profoundly influential and how much very strict kind of parallels there are between the principles and the practices of the pre-Burning Man history of the community. And I think it's something that is worth learning about and recognizing if you are interested in this world. Speaking of which, Danger Rager is giving that same talk in Reno in mid-November. I urge you to go if you have the opportunity. I also learned something significant, which is that people always say, why doesn't Burning Man buy property, instead of having to deal with the BLM and all that stuff? Now Burning Man has bought property with Fly Ranch, but there's still a whole bunch of reasons why it's not the best idea to run an event on private land. They did throw Burning Man on private land in 1997. And what happens on private land is that on private land, you are governed by the municipality that you're in, and so there's laws and ordinances, and the local government can make decrees, and all sorts of things can happen. So in 97, officials came out and said, you need to have a marked parking place for every car here. According to the law, you need to have lit street signs, you need to have this and this and this, and then last minute they said, there's a danger of fire here. We're going to bring in $300,000 worth of fire department that you have to pay for. And so the pressures from local politics was such a financial drain on Burning Man that Burning Man almost ended that year. Whereas public lands, there are rights to assembly. There are rights for people to gather on public lands that are protected. And so there's, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I just became aware of there's a lot of people spending a lot of time thinking about a lot of things for the benefit of this community. I was fired up about Burning Man more than I ever have been when I returned from the burn this year, but now I'm like liquid magma. There are so many things happening that are beyond the scope of what I see in my world, like the Burners Without Borders movement and the work happening that burners are doing in refugee camps around the world. It's like anybody that argues that Burning Man is a party in the desert is like, it's always been a short-sighted comment, but now it's just flat out not true. Number 13. I was really lucky to have a long conversation with Stephen Raspa, who is a pinnacle, exemplary. He is everything that I have done in my life about using my life as my art. He has done it in a more significant, beautiful, and well thought out way. And we had this really long conversation. I was super inspired, and I shared something that I'd learned over the course of running the theme camp, which is how important it is to connect people with the vision. And that in my camp, I'm more connected to, or initially I was more connected to the vision. And initially I kind of got caught up with trying to pay people with compliments and give them enough gratitude that they would feel good about putting their labor into my vision. Until I realized that no, it's the vision, and my job is to help articulate it, and other people bring in their talents. And when you start to realize that it's the vision and help people to get why it's important, it's one reason why I share. Anytime I get an email from someone saying something magical that happened to them at Pink Heart, I share it with the camp so that they know what you did help this person meet their wife. What you did help this person stop considering suicide. What you did matters. And when people have that connection to purpose, then one, it's not saying, will you do this for me? And I can say, hey, a stilt ladder, you need to do this. And I don't have to feel guilty about it because I'm not saying you need to do it for me. I'm saying you need to do this so that this important thing can be even better. And Stephen Raspas, he interjected, he goes, you get to do this. Yes! That is one of the biggest reminders that I had, is that subtle difference, that reminder of being a part of this is a gift, is an opportunity, is a blessing. We are lucky to be able to find a way to feel connected to something, to feel that there's a way to put your energy and passions towards something that matters, that is such an opportunity. And it touches art, it touches community, it touches fundraising, it touches everything. And that the more that we can communicate and understand that connection to the significance of what we're doing, the more everything can be done with more joy. So, I gotta say, I am so grateful to everyone at Esalen that made the experience just so magical, everyone at Burning Man that did the organizing, everyone that participated there from within and outside of the Burning Man community that contributed their genius and their ideas, and everyone in the Burning Man community at large around the world for making this something that matters, for making an idea that feels like home. I'm so grateful to be a part of this. I am so grateful to be connected to you. Whether you've been or never been to Black Rock City, whether you ever will, you are one of the artists with gifts that makes this magic. Thank you. I love you. Even if we don't have to see the immediate effects, shining our light into the world does make a difference, and you will start to attract other people who shine, and you will start to see ripples that go out into the world.